Recently, Riot has been adding buffs to off-meta builds for a lot of champions. And the intention is clear. They're opening up space for players to experiment. But the real question isn't just why they are doing it, it's whether these builds are actually worth running, and what that means for the overall health of the game. One of the biggest problems League has, especially for people who play a lot, is that it starts to feel solved, even if it's not entirely correct. For the average player, it often feels like there is only one right way to play every champion. You lock in your main, and you build the same 3 items you've been building for the past 6 months. That feeling of repetition kills excitement. It makes games blend together, and when you play a lot, you start noticing the patterns even more. It's like deja vu every queue. The same item paths, the same results. In the past, Riot's solution was to shake things up by just giga-buffing champions straight to 52–54% win rates, or reworking whole item system once in a while. It did change the meta, but in a very shallow way. You didn't suddenly get more diversity or new playstyles. You just saw the same champions taking over your games, but with different items. What they are doing now is different. Instead of spiking numbers, they're experimenting by giving champions side builds. Not necessarily stronger builds, but alternative ones that create variety. That way, even if the meta is stable, players don't feel like they're forced into the exact same path every time. And that really matters, because League isn't just about climbing. For a lot of people, the fun comes from expression, from playing the champion in your own way. When Riot adds these side buffs, they are basically giving players permission to experiment. The best part is that even if the off-meta build you play doesn't end up being competitive, winning with it feels actually incredible. You don't just feel like you followed some boring guide by a challenger player. You feel like you discovered something yourself, and that sense of creativity can carry players through hundreds of games. It's a way of rewarding your curiosity. Riot are basically saying, if you want to try something different, go for it, and it might actually work. But of course, this has its problems. Not every experiment belongs in ranked. Off-meta builds can tilt your teammates before the game even starts, because they know there is a chance it just won't work. For every hidden gem, there are 5 builds that crash and burn, and someone has to suffer through those losses. But at the same time, I think it's necessary. League has been running for over a decade, and the only reason it still feels fresh is because of changes like this. If the game was locked into one perfect build path for every champion, I don't think anyone would stick around as long as they have. Most of these off-meta builds aren't going to replace the standard ones. If they did, that would basically override a champion's identity. Riot doesn't want a full AD sign or AP Aurelia to become the best way to play. But every once in a while, these experiments lead to builds that are genuinely strong, or at least situationally useful. Let's talk about some of these off-meta builds. Starting with the Kalista AP hybrid build. I won't focus much on this, because it's already got its own video. You could check it here, by the way. The idea was simple. Stack like 7–8 spears, then cash them out with a giant burst. And sure, it looks flashy on clips. But when you zoom out and look at the data, it just doesn't hold up. You give up her consistent DPS and teamfight potential just for being good in duels. Her win rate with this build has been abysmal for months. It's the perfect example of a build that looks exciting when you first discover it, but in reality it's not actually good. Besides, it just functions the same way as AD Kalista, playing around her E. So that build can never be good, unless Riot will break their own game. On the other side of the spectrum, there are builds that just make sense. Master Yi now finally works with Kraken and Terminus. Both items slot naturally into his identity, auto-attacking, scaling with on hits. And the results are noticeable. Looking at the data, Kraken performs insanely well and basically makes Yi OP. This isn't really off-meta build, because it's just his best build and fits his initial identity. But it shows the kind of success Riot is going for when they introduce changes like this. They didn't break Yi's identity. they just gave him more options and variety in his build. Mordekaiser is a little more experimental. His Q now has 120% bonus AD ratio, which on paper makes you think, okay, maybe full AD Mord is the way. In reality, that's not how it plays out. His AP items still provide way more value early, especially Rocket Belt, that is heavily undervalued for lots of champions. It changes in the mid to late game. Once you've got your core AP items, you can start leaning into AD bruiser options. Sterak's, Shotgun, Hexblade, even Death Dance or Blood Mail. All of these can actually work as a third or fourth items. You're not suddenly an AD champion, but it gives you a way to experiment with your build. My favorite one is Nashor's Tooth 2nd into Hexblade 3rd. You get so much attack speed in your ultimate. That's the kind of off-meta build that adds depth, not replacing the champ's core identity, but giving you more flexibility as the game progresses. And then there's AP Twitch, the most extreme case right now. I don't know whose idea was to buff it, but Riot gave him stronger AP ratios. And suddenly, it's not just playable, it's his best build if you max W 2nd. For some reason, half of AP Twitch players don't do that. Anyway, the way it works is brutal. Once you are level 13 with around 2-3 items, your W slow ramps up to around 18-90%. That basically pins enemies in place, and while they are stuck, your poison is chunking them for huge amounts of true damage. And then you just execute them with your E. Really toxic gameplay. Toxic. Got it? And the thing is, this isn't just a niche strategy. Around 25% of Twitch players are already going AP. It's common and effective. It also plays really well in solo queue, where people don't respect your Q stealth. And the cherry on top, you can actually get Dark Seal or even Magi if you are ahead, which increases your snowball potential by a lot. This is one of those rare cases where an off-meta build doesn't just add variety, it actively outperforms the original path in a lot of situations. So, are off-meta builds viable? Most of the time, they are not meant to be. They are just experiments, ways of keeping the game fresh without just buffing or nerfing champions' numbers. But sometimes, like with AP Twitch, those experiments grow into something bigger. This approach is healthier than the shake all items cycle. It rewards creativity, keeps the game unpredictable, and makes long-term players feel like there's always something new to try. And if you are interested in more hidden power in the game, I've got another video on Triumph, why it's secretly one of the most underrated runes in League. Trust me, this is actually undervalued. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you enjoyed the video. Bye!